Karla, you're someone that I think of as an original, someone whose work comes from your own life, your own original sources of material. And in fact, the word empath, what it means for someone to be an empath, I heard that word first from you. So where did you get this idea that you were an empath, and what does it mean to be an empath?
We were trying to figure out where the word came from, and I think it came from a Star Trek episode where a young woman didn't speak, but she only read emotions from people, and they called her an empath. So that's where most people know it from. And for me, an empath is someone who is aware that they read emotions. We all read emotions. We can't not, because we read nuance, and we read undercurrent, and we read between the lines. But for me, that has always been the loudest thing in a conversation. So where I would sit with someone and they would hear the words, I would say, but look how she was behaving. Look how she feels about it. Look at this. Look at that. And I realized fairly early in life that what I was seeing was not what everybody else was seeing. It wasn't normal. And it took me until I was in my 20s or 30s to finally kind of grab onto that title and say, I'm an empath. Some people would also say I'm a highly sensitive person.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you say it wasn't normal, what do you mean? Most people, you said everybody's tuning into emotions, but most people aren't aware of it. So what was the thing that felt abnormal to you?
I guess how clear it was to me, how people felt when they were speaking. I was just watching a musical group, and I won't say who they are, but there are 4 of them, and they sing and they go all around the country to sing, and someone had sent me a YouTube video of them, so I went and watched. And then after the singing, there were interviews with these 4 singers, and the way they were sitting, the way they were speaking, they weren't looking at one another. They were all sitting like this in their chairs as the other one was talking, and they weren't leaning, and they weren't looking at each other, and they weren't joking. And I wrote back and I said, they hate each other. They hate each other so much. And other people, after they heard me, after I sent it out to a bunch of people that I know, and after they looked at it and they went, oh my gosh, they do. But it wasn't the first thing that they saw. They were listening to the words and what the people were saying, but I was watching the relationships, or the lack of relationships that were going on in that group. It was fascinating. And it's sort of how I felt my whole life, is I would see what was going on, the relationships, and people would say, well, they didn't say anything. I said, well, they were screaming it from their body language.
Mm-hmm. And then this empathic information that you're receiving, is it how you're seeing pictures, words? I mean, how do you receive the information?
It's nonverbal, so it's been a great deal of time in my life I've spent figuring out how to articulate it verbally. But it's nuance, it's gesture, it's breathing. I'm reading body language, basically. But more than that, also, I'm reading almost sociologically what the hierarchy is in the relationships. I can sometimes tell how well people know each other or don't. And it can be very uncomfortable, because a lot of times people want you to see what I call the on-stage behavior. They want you to see the man who is not behind the curtain. They don't want you to see all the preparation that it took to get you where you are, so you're looking quite adult and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of times I spend sitting in crowds or in groups of people not saying something about what I see.
Now, you said you're looking at the sociology, the hierarchy in a situation. What do you mean?
What I mean is that sometimes I'll go into a group, or a lot of times I'll go into a group and I will see the systems that they've formed together. Who thinks they're in charge and who really is. Who how the relationships work and how they don't, who's forming little cliques and who's left out, who doesn't realize they're left out of the clique, that sort of thing. It's almost like I see everything as kind of the high school cafeteria, where it's more clear when people are teens that they're
Yeah.
doing their clicks and they're, we're the burnouts and we're the jocks and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I still see that when I go in.
Okay. Now, it's one thing to know what another person is feeling. What I've found is that most people don't know what they're feeling, let alone what other people in the room are feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think it's so hard for people to simply know what they're feeling?
I think mostly because we're not taught. Because we don't. I was looking at when I look at the emotions, I try to make it simpler for people to understand them, and so I say that they are the water element of the psyche, the body's the earth, the spirit or the spiritual aspect or the visionary aspect is fire, and the intellect is air. But what I noticed, and it's changing, is people say we have body, mind, and spirit, and they think that's a complete thing. And I said, well, where's the emotions? Or they'll say that Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost, where's the woman? It seems like there's the fluid emotional aspect of life is left out of most of our deliberations. And one of the things I'm noticing is that when we're in school, when we're 4 and 5 years old and we come into school, we're supposed to already know how to do emotions and how to do social behavior, even though we're 4 and 5 years old. So that if we act out an emotion that's not right, like anger, we're not going to be dealing with it in the classroom. We're going to be sent to the principal's office. And we'll be sent away from the learning environment. Because we'll be told, in that shaming way that emotion's not acceptable, but nobody actually says it. There's not a book on it when you're little. Mm-hmm. You learn to read and write and do math, but you don't learn what your emotions are or why they're there.